Marjorie Taylor Greene proposes a national divorce. The U.S. Energy Department says COVID-19 likely came from a lab leak. Ron DeSantis takes over Florida's Disney district. That and more on this week's headline. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. Russian President Vladimir Putin gave actor, martial artist, and ponytail trailblazer Steven Seagal the Order of Friendship Award, one of Russia's top awards, for a large contribution into the development of cultural and humanitarian cooperation. First of all, receiving a humanitarian award from Vladimir Putin is like receiving a world's greatest son's coffee mug from the Menendez brothers. Second, I'm not convinced Steven Seagal has improved international relations with Russia. I don't think a single country on the planet thought, well, we were going to sanction Russia for invading Ukraine, but we can't since Steven Seagal loves them. And if there's anyone who's never made a bad call before, it's the guy starring in every single movie at the bottom of a Walmart straight-to-DVD bin. His career fell faster than a Russian official out of a window. Speaking of people taking flight, the Department of Transportation's Inspector General will audit Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg over using government-owned private jets at least 18 times since taking office 2 years ago. This audit comes after a request made from Republican Senator Marco Rubio. A spokesperson for the Department of Transportation claimed Buttigieg only flew via private jet when it was more cost-effective, saying, "We welcome this independent audit moving forward in order to put some of the false, outlandish, and cynical claims about the Secretary's mode of travel to rest. The fact remains that he flies commercially the vast majority of the time." Yeah, he flies commercially, except when it's cost-effective. It makes sense. I can't tell you how many times I crunched the numbers and realized, wow, instead of flying Delta, I can save a bunch of money by just using a private jet. Buttigieg said he only used the agency's jet in situations where it would save taxpayers' money. But if Buttigieg really wants to save taxpayers' money and be more environmentally friendly while doing it, he should just travel via hot air balloon. Although given recent current events, that might not be the safest option. Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene proposed the U.S. get a national divorce, where red states and blue states are separated so their ideological and political beliefs don't interfere with one another, all under a limited federal government. Greene says Americans support this national divorce idea. And here's the source for her statement. Greene says she's proposing this idea to prevent a war.
The last thing I ever want to see in America is a civil war. No one wants that. At least everyone I know would never want that. But it's going that direction, and we have to do something about it.
So she doesn't want there to be an American civil war, and her solution is breaking up the Union? That's like trying to prevent a world war by shooting Franz Ferdinand, the band. And yes, that would start a world war. They're a national treasure in every nation. Republican Congressman Michael McCaul called Greene's idea divisive rhetoric that hurts the nation. And Mitt Romney called it insanity. Insanity? First of all, if anyone knows anything about going through a divorce after being together for a long time, it's Marjorie Taylor Greene. Second, this might be just what America needs. I don't mean implementing Greene's plan. That idea is actually crazy, considering how no state is truly red or blue. Every state has liberal and conservative pockets, so there's no way to neatly divide them. But if we just say America got divorced, then that means it gets 2 Christmases, or maybe even 50 Christmases. I'm not actually sure how a 50-way divorce works. That doesn't matter. Just think of all those presents. More after the break. Welcome back. The White House announced government agencies must remove TikTok from federal devices within a month. And on the same day, Canada banned TikTok on their government devices. Oh man, so now government devices will only be allowed to use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Reddit, Pinterest, and OnlyFans? How are employees supposed to pass the time with just those? The U.S. and Canadian governments are banning TikTok over security concerns, as the app's parent company is a Chinese company linked to the Chinese Communist Party, and it's been accused of spying on users. Oh wait, did I say accused? I meant proven to be, many times. I've covered this so many times. So many links are below. China accused the U.S. of overreacting, with a spokesperson for their foreign ministry saying the U.S. government should respect the principles of market economy and fair competition, stop suppressing the companies, and provide an open, fair, and non-discriminatory environment for foreign companies in the U.S. Yes, let's take free market advice from the Chinese Communist Party. The U.S. government is still debating over whether or not to raise the debt ceiling, and if so, how to go about it. House Republicans propose saving money by cutting $150 billion in spending on woke policies in education, housing, and health care. Russell Vought, former President Donald Trump's budget chief, put together a proposed budget slashing these programs, saying, "We're in a divided government. So what's the easiest place to cut spending? It's the bureaucracy. And that's where we want to focus the fight." Now, if they want to save money, then why don't they just take a page out of Pete Buttigieg's book and buy everyone private jets? That's way more economical. The Democrats are skeptical Republicans will be able to pass this budget proposal, but Freedom Caucus member Bob Good said Kevin McCarthy says Republicans won't vote for doing what we've always done and just raising the debt ceiling without meaningful spending cuts and reforms. I think the president and the Senate Majority Leader will recognize that he's telling the truth, which is encouraging, except for the fact that saying they're not going to do what they've always done and then doing it anyway is what Congress always does. This is like going to see the Harlem Globetrotters and thinking the Washington Generals are going to win this time. They said so, and I believe them. One woke policy that may not be long for the world is President Biden's plan to forgive student loan debt. The Supreme Court heard 2 cases challenging Biden's plan to forgive up to $10,000 in student debt for millions of Americans and up to $20,000 in debt for recipients of Pell Grants. The first case involved the states of Arkansas, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, and South Carolina suing over the plan. Their case was dismissed as it was determined the plan didn't affect them. But this decision was appealed and the plan was put on hold until a decision could be made by the Supreme Court. The second case was over 2 students who were ineligible for the full amount of relief and not eligible at all, and accused Biden of not going through the proper channels when implementing the plan. Wait, you can sue when you don't get money you think you're entitled to? In that case, prepare for a big fat lawsuit, Philadelphia Eagles. I lost a fortune betting on them in the Super Bowl. How do you give up 17 points in the 4th quarter? I hope they at least know how to mount a legal defense. The Supreme Court likely won't make a decision on these cases for several months, but come on. We know how this is probably going to go. The old, reliable 6-3. The results to every case they hear these days is more predictable than Marvel movies. Every character makes identical quippy jokes, undercutting any dramatic tension, a third-act giant CGI battle that feels more like a video game, and a post-credits tease for the next movie asking us to pay $18 to see the exact same thing 3 times a year, every year until we die. Whew. Speaking of things I knew all along, the COVID lab leak theory. According to a classified intelligence report from the U.S. Department of Energy, it concluded that the COVID pandemic most likely originated from a leak in the Wuhan laboratory that was studying coronaviruses. If you had a hard time understanding that, it's probably because you couldn't hear me over the sounds of millions of people screaming, "I told you so!" The Energy Department joins the FBI in believing the pandemic originated from a lab leak, while several other U.S. agencies either believe it started in nature or can't decide on how it all began. But honestly, it's probably just a matter of time before they follow suit and admit the lab leak theory is the most likely origin of the pandemic, especially since the Senate unanimously, I repeat, unanimously, voted to declassify intelligence given to the White House on the origin of the COVID-19 pandemic. 3 years ago, this theory was called just a fringe conspiracy. Then, several agencies and even Dr. Fauci himself admitted it was plausible. And now, government agencies are saying it's the most likely explanation. This is just like how everyone thought I was crazy for saying that Guy Fieri is just the singer from Smash Mouth after going Super Saiyan. I'm glad history has proven me correct on this one too, with massive confidence. And after the break, Iran wants to kill Donald Trump. Welcome back. An Iranian general said that Iran is still planning to kill former President Donald Trump and his Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Why? For their killing of Iranian military commander Qasem Soleimani. And even Iran can't stop going after Donald Trump years after he left office. Is Iran trying to be like CNN? Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot lost her bid for re-election. This makes her the first Chicago mayor in 40 years to lose re-election. This doesn't come as a surprise to anyone. Well, to anyone but Lori Lightfoot, who said her low approval ratings didn't bother her ahead of the election. Lightfoot was a constant source of controversy. With crime skyrocketing in Chicago during her tenure in office, she offered solutions such as suggesting street vendors stop using cash, which is one step away from saying, don't dress like that if you don't want to be sexually assaulted. She also had a contentious relationship with her critics, whether they were reporters or civilians, often yelling and screaming at them. She blamed 99% of their criticisms on racism or sexism. You know, because everyone who wants a solution to crime other than try using Venmo is obviously a racist sexist. Also, Lightfoot was sued for only granting interviews to reporters of color. I could go on and on and on. Needless to say, Chicago has spoken and Lori Lightfoot is out of a job. On the bright side, now that she'll no longer be a government employee, she can TikTok as much as she likes. And yes, she actually does have a TikTok account. Which seems bad, but to be fair, that's only like her 26th most horrible decision since becoming mayor. Speaking of controversial politicians, Ron DeSantis. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill giving himself control over Walt Disney World's self-governing district in Central Florida. DeSantis is likely doing this in retaliation for Walt Disney World speaking out against Florida's Parental Rights in Education Act, referred to by many on the left as the Don't Say Gay bill. We covered the story in a previous video. Links are below. If DeSantis is doing this strictly to punish Disney over their comments and beliefs, then that's a clear violation of the First Amendment. After all, in America, people are allowed to express their opinions. And also in America, corporations are people. So with DeSantis in charge, does this mean Disney World will have Republican-themed rides like Big Thunder, Small Government Mountain, or the Tea Party Cups? Well, no, because this isn't actually a hostile takeover of Disney, despite some news organizations making it sound that way in their headlines. The bill renamed the Reedy Creek Improvement District that was self-governed by Disney to the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. It removes some power from Disney and allows DeSantis to add an oversight board with board members closely tied to his administration. It makes the area more like a regular city and less like the completely corporate-run city it was for decades. DeSantis denied doing this as a punishment for Disney speaking out against the Parental Rights in Education Act and said he did this because Disney was injecting woke ideology into children's entertainment. And we believe being joined at the hip with this one California-based company was not something that was justifiable or sustainable. However, despite losing some self-governing power, Disney World still retains massive tax breaks in the state of Florida. Because at the end of the day, even when they're feuding, Republicans still care about people, assuming those people are giant corporations. So this is less DeSantis owning Disney and more of an optics victory. Yet more points scored in the culture war, just not as many points as the Eagles gave up in the fourth quarter. DeSantis is likely looking for these kinds of victories as he seems to be gearing up to run for president. DeSantis skipped this year's Conservative Political Action Conference and instead went on a tour promoting his new book and courting former political allies of Donald Trump. As you can imagine, Trump responded to this with grace, wishing DeSantis luck. Of course he didn't. Trump lashed out at DeSantis and even Fox News, accusing the network of being Republican in name only, or rhinos, and giving DeSantis more attention than him. Given all the infighting between Trump and DeSantis, Fox News, and Kevin McCarthy needing 15 elections to become Speaker of the House, I think Republicans might be in need of a divorce. Not even for strategic purposes, but because who doesn't enjoy getting two Christmases? So what do you think about the stories we covered this week? Leave your comments below. Now, if you want to help us deliver nonpartisan news, be sure to support America Uncovered by going to patreon.com/AmericaUncovered. All it takes is as little as $1 or more per episode to fight YouTube censorship and demonetization. We rely on your support to help us keep making great episodes. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.